Given that February was a pretty slow month, I've decided to combine it with my March review video in order to make something that actually lasts longer than 2 minutes. So, here goes. First up is Adventures, Supersonic Home. Now this was the only album I heard in February, and that's because it was the only album I was interested in hearing in February. About a month before this album dropped, I saw the music video for the song Heavenly, and I was really impressed, so I was expecting the rest of the album to be just as good. So, is it? By and large, yes. First of all, the production is glorious. The drums have a nice bounce to them, the guitars are layered, and the pleasant vocal harmonies are really pushed to the forefront. Most of these songs have extremely nice, sharp melodies, and I found myself humming them long after I'd finished listening to this album. However, there is one thing that really prevents me from calling Supersonic Home great, and that is the vocals. Like I said, the harmonies can be lovely, but for the most part the vocals sound quite amateurish and not always in key, which I really found quite insufferable after a while. Aside from that, Adventure's debut LP is pretty enjoyable, bubbly indie rock. Next, we have Carl Barât and the Jackals, Let It Rain. Yes, the much revered Libertines guitarist has tried once again to resuscitate his solo career. Despite the fact that hardly anyone was asking for this, and frankly we'd just like to hear the new Libertines album as soon as possible, Carl Barât and the Jackals' Let It Rain is actually pretty decent. It sounds raw, fierce and gritty, which is refreshing given how synthetic and fake a lot of rock sounds nowadays. And despite not having fellow Libertine Pete Doherty with him for this project, Barât still plays guitar superbly, and there are tons of memorable Chuck Berry-esque riffs. The complete absence of subtlety on this record, however, drags it down considerably. The ballads are way too melodramatic to be taken seriously. Everything else, though, is pretty damn thrilling. But seriously, when is the next Libertines album coming out? Imagine Dragons' Smoke and Mirrors. All the songs are the same. Modest Mouse, Strangers to Ourselves. I'll be honest, I'm really not the biggest expert on Modest Mouse. I've only heard a few of their albums, so I'm not quite as big a fan of this band compared to some of my friends and relatives. However, I do know how good a lot of their past material is, so I was expecting something great. Ultimately, though, I got something very disappointing. I think the singles from Strangers to Ourselves are extremely solid, but the rest of this album is just so bland and forgettable. This is about as slow and mellow as I've heard Modest Mouse get, and frankly, I don't like this side of them. These songs are so mild that they just sound sparse, and as a result, hardly anything has stayed with me.